What we do at 1 Million Cups is pretty simple. We're going to have two entrepreneurs come up and tell us about their companies. And when they're done, the panelists, we have expert panelists here on my left, and they're going to ask them some questions. And when they're finished, you will be allowed to do the same thing. My name is Billy, and I'm a community organizer. To my left is Tyler, Caitlin, Kyle, and Courtney in the corner. I'm going to let our panelists introduce themselves.
All right, hi. My name is Ben Williams. I'm an assistant director for the Rainier Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation over at UMKC, where we have a number of programs. I have a student from one of my programs, the Enactus program, here today. They work on community issues and try and build projects around those issues. We also run programs like our eScholars program that I was excited to find out Kyle has been accepted to the new cohort for the coming year. So that program works with early stage entrepreneurs to help them build their companies. So thank you.
All right, let's have a warm welcome to our first presenter, David Herford with Reading Screening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here on a rainy day. A little bit about myself. I'm a research scientist, so I'm a science nerd, and probably don't have a lot of entrepreneurs here, but in reality, most of the research that's being done actually turns into something that we can actually use as a product. But I've been working in the field in dyslexia for about 30 years. I'm a Spencer Fellow from the National Academy of Education. Only 3 in the state of Kansas has ever been awarded the Spencer Fellowship. I published in scientific journals. I direct the Center for Research, Evaluation, and Awareness of Dyslexia on the Pittsburgh State University campus. And I also direct CARD, which is a nonprofit. We're trying to get some of what we do on campus, off campus. I want to tell you a little bit about dyslexia, because a lot of people don't know much about it, or if they think they know about it, they're probably not correct about it. But dyslexia, the term dyslexia just means difficult word. In reality, what we're talking about is a difficulty in terms of reading words, because dys means difficulty or dysfunction, and lex means word. And so here we know that when we look at studies that dyslexia is actually a result of neurological processing differences between individuals who have dyslexia and those who don't. And it's also genetic in origin. So the way the brain is created is developed based on genetics, and that was what it was intended to look like. What we look at in terms of dyslexia, it's an inability of the brain to process certain types of information, particularly associate sounds with letters and to effectively decode letters into sounds, which is absolutely critical to being able to read. And so individuals who have dyslexia are very poor at reading words, and they're also very poor spellers. And what we want to do is help individuals become competent readers, because people who have dyslexia can be competent readers. And I wanted to show you this. On the left side, we have an individual here who does not have dyslexia. You can see fMRI studies that's showing the activation parts of the brain. Notice a person with dyslexia, there's not some things happening at the back part of the brain. And those are the places where we're associating sounds with letters and those types of things. But when we look at this, there's actually differences in the way people's brains process information. It's not a visual difficulty. It's not due to lower intelligence. It's not due to lack of effort. It's not a problem of reversing letters. All kids do that when they first learn how to read. I like to joke that if you can't read, you're doomed, because we all expect people to read in school and in the community and in their jobs. But in reality, that's not exactly true, because there are a lot of individuals who are successful who have dyslexia. A lot of people who have dyslexia actually go on and be entrepreneurs because they don't fit into the system very well. My work in the early 1990s, I was developing strategies to identify kids who were at risk for reading difficulties and dyslexia before they actually started school, which is about 2 to 3 years earlier than individuals at the time did. Today we do that at a larger scale. Right now there are about 28 million kids between kindergarten and 5th grade. About 20% of kids, 1 in 5, have dyslexia. So that's 5.7 million students in the United States who have dyslexia between kindergarten and 5th grade. Obviously, it's larger than that if we look at the larger population and older individuals. It's even more individuals experience reading fail than just people who have dyslexia. And right now, there are no tools online for parents to actually assess their child and determine if they have a reading difficulty or dyslexia. So right now, there are way too many students who cannot read. way too many who cannot read or read very poorly. 33% of individuals do not read at the basic level, and 58% of individuals don't read at the proficient level. And if you can't read in school, you have some particular difficulties, because in first grade we say individuals learn to read, in third grade and beyond we say they read to learn, right? So without being able to read, that's a major problem. And so to get help, you have to identify that there's a problem, and early identification is the best, and that's what we're interested in. So readingscreening.org is a site that we have up, available. It's working. Parents love using it. The major problem is that no one knows that it exists, and that's why I'm here today. Is like, how do we let people know that it exists so they can use it to help their child? So when they use the reading screening, they use it with their child one-on-one. They sit with a computer. They ask the child questions. The child answers the question. The parent actually responds to the computer. The child does not do it him or herself. It takes about 45 or 60 minutes, and there are 14 different tasks on the particular screening. It's very accurate. The report gives an overall score if the individual is at risk for reading difficulties or dyslexia, and it'll give them that information. It also tells the individual how they performed on each of those particular tasks, because we know that people have strengths and weaknesses, and they have strengths and weaknesses in terms of reading. And so we want individuals to know that, and we hope that they'll take this report to their school so that their teachers can understand, or a school site can do further evaluation and develop a plan for them. Right now, if you look what's available online, there are online checklists where a parent can go in and say, yeah, my student reverses letters, or they don't have a very strong interest in reading, or they avoid reading, or those types of things. But what we're trying to do is actually get in and look at the nuts and bolts of reading. Phonological processing. Phonological processing indicates that an individual understands that words are comprised of sounds, and you can use those sounds as linguistic building blocks. For example, if you say to a kid in kindergarten, say the word dog, who's going to be a good reader, and they say dog, you say, now say without the duh sound, they're going to say og. But kids who have dyslexia or are at risk for reading difficulties, if you say the same thing to them, you say the word cat, now say without the t sound, they say kitty, doggy, because they don't understand what you're talking about. Remember the picture of the brain? That part of the brain is not connecting with the sounds. They don't really understand that. And for those of you who are good readers, that's great. But for individuals who are struggling to learn how to read, it's extremely difficult for them to do so. And so there's really not much available to parents online, and so the competition is really non-existent. And if we look at what individuals do have, it's all paper and pencil tests. You have to get graduate training, and you have to be certified to do it. So parents really are at a loss, and they're not exactly sure what to do. And so that's what we're here today to try and figure out is, what can we do to get this information out to parents so they know that it's available, so they can help their kids and get things rolling. So I've got questions, or I'll field questions. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and turn it over to our expert panelists for questions.
Hi, great job. So if your problem is marketing, can you tell us what you've done so far to market this product?
Right now what I've done is I have little bifold business cards, and when I go to conferences, I'll leave them around. I go to conferences and talk about this type of information. Right now I'm trying to get radio stations to do a little PSA that talks about the reading screening, how important it is. But I haven't had a lot of luck. And I'm a researcher, so researchers, we don't like to make what's called a type 1 error, which is saying something is really awesome when we're not exactly sure. I mean, it's just our personalities not to do that. So it's a challenge for me to do that. And actually today, it's a challenge. I'm a professor too. For 6 minutes, that's really hard for me to do. So hours is good, 6 minutes is harder.
So if I'm assuming your target market is schools and parents with young children, right?
Correct. And the market, what we're really looking at, the demographic, is probably women between 25 and 40. Although dads are involved, obviously, with their kids, but it's usually the moms that notice first. I don't think reading's going very well, and the dad says, well, let's give it some time and see how it works. We don't want to give it time. That's what we call the wait to fail model. If you keep waiting and like, okay, it's been 2 years, they're in 3rd grade now, they can't read, now what do we do? Well, we just wasted 2 years, 2 or 3 years. So we want it as early as possible.
Have you gone to talk to school districts and individual schools?
I have not much. When I do, you know, they seem interested, but then they say, well, we got these other things that we use. So it is a real challenge for me. It's really challenging because when you have something that really does work, you know, we've published this information in scientific journals, which obviously reviewers are looking at it, and they're not going to let stuff in that's not, you know, pretty decent. And, you know, all this stuff works. We've got to publish it in a scientific environment, but that piece of getting it to the real market and consumers using it is something that I've not been very good at.
Well, I mean, you've done a pretty good job of identifying exactly who you're looking for. So I think the next question is, where can you find those people? I would think, you know, even going to, you know, Boy Scouts or something like that, where, you know, a lot of parents there with their kids, figuring out, you know, maybe some, I don't know, bookstores or somewhere like that parents are currently going. I mean, reach them where they are. Show up there and talk to them and show them what you've got, and maybe show it off to a couple of the parents there and walk them through it. I think that's going to be your best starting point, and then you get immediate feedback from whoever you're talking to at that point. Later on, when you're growing, you can work on a larger, broader marketing strategy.
Good idea, thanks. I guess the other thing I could add is parents with children who have dyslexia, the schools are at a challenge, they're challenged really to help them. Parents don't know what's going on. There's a lot of people selling stuff to them. And so it's hard for them to differentiate the good from the bad. And they're not scientists, so they have a hard time looking at the literature to determine what's happening. So that's also another challenge, because you have to win their trust first, and then they'll look at it.
And that's where I was going to come in now with some new legislation in the state of Missouri that says that if we have this reading gap, then they must be assessed. So perhaps the entry point is really education and building relationships with the parents and the community first, and then saying this is a tool that we can use then to address the issues. Or partnering with organizations or businesses that are already in existence that aren't necessarily equipped to handle that particular issue. So the Sylvans and the Commands and things like that, like they offer tutoring services and things of that nature. Are they really equipped to deal with this other piece of it? And how then can you carve out a partnership or referral network or something like that then to get to your target market?
Yeah, that would work.
Get your hands up for questions. Oh, no, here. Question in the front here.
So you've identified the problem and figured out a solution. Is this a business?
It's a business.
It is a business. Okay. So how do you plan to generate revenue?
Well,
people have to subscribe to take this test.
right, yeah, I should have mentioned that during the presentation. To actually use it, we charge $25. So that actually generates some funds.
Now, once the parent discovers that the child has a reading problem, you don't offer any solutions, however. And do you even point to solutions?
You know, after they take it, there's a section on the website that gives them information where they can go and how they can use the report in their school. But we also have an intervention and a training procedure ourselves, but we're really super small. But yeah, that's the next piece, is to help people get help for the issues that they've identified.
Yep. So it seems like the little bit of marketing you've done has not been actually directed at your target market that you identified, women between 25 and 40, I think you said.
Right.
So I think identifying what those groups are and then discovering your easiest connections to them so that you can have one-to-many conversations. Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Thank you.
Question here in the center. I spent about 5 years connecting bench scientists to what was happening in reality. So I got a little bit of why this is a problem for you. One thing that struck me during your presentation is that you don't have any advocates. So most of the time, especially in medicine, the thing that shifts medicine forward is a patient advocate. Do you have an advocate? Do you have a champion for this technology? Somebody you can put a face on it to make it real?
I probably could. I never really thought of that, but yeah, that would be helpful.
Another question up front. So you've mentioned that you need help with marketing. Are you intending to hire somebody to help you build a marketing strategy? Are you intending to partner with somebody that can take over the marketing of the product? What's your intention there?
I'm pretty much looking at every option we have in a real low budget at this point in time, because we're not generating a lot of money. You know, people that use it like it, but it's not, you know, the notion that it's there is not spreading very quickly. So I'm open to those kinds of things, and even, you know, like I said, being a professor and a researcher, marketing is a whole different world that I'm not very familiar with, so I need educated and help in that regard. But I think eventually to make these things work, you have to, you know, put money into it, and you have to get someone who can do those kinds of things. And obviously my skill set's not there. It's not.
Question back here.
Have you thought about the local morning programs like KC Live and Better KC, who actually probably have that population, that target market you're looking for, and then plus once you get a video with them, it's something you can use as a marketing piece?
You know, I actually toyed with that idea. I live a couple of hours south of here, but actually I think that's something I probably should pursue. You know, that's, people watch that and they're like, oh, yeah, my son or my daughter's having issues with reading and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they're looking for ideas because they're on 5 days a week. So also consider libraries.
Okay, thanks.
Question on your right.
My question was similar to the first gentleman is, how do you plan on monetizing this? And is it $25 just a one time or is it a subscription? What is the plan with Big Picture? Is it just that one time $25 for the student and they're done? Or is this gonna be a subscription model? Have you thought about that part?
Yeah, it's one time, and then the next, they pay $25 for the first time. Then if they want to do a reassessment or look at a different child, it's another $25. And $25 may be too cheap. You know, maybe looking at it going, I don't know, $25, it can't be that good. See, I don't even know if that's appropriate. But see, in where I'm from, we have a lot of poverty, and I want people to have access. And so I'm really not sure what the appropriate even cost would be. But at some point in time, obviously, you know, we want to generate enough money to actually be viable.
Another question on your right.
How does this hold weight? So if a parent does this test and then brings it to their school, does it have weight or meaning once they get there? Or like, how do you anticipate them using this once they have the information?
What I anticipate, because most of the schools actually, you know, the 14 different tasks that are on there, they have some familiarity with what those are. And so when they look at the task, it gives them percentile ranks and standard scores and at risk and all that kind of stuff. Kind of tells them the strengths and weaknesses. What I would hope they would do is say, okay, it looks clearly like we have something that needs to be addressed here. We need to get a school psych assigned to it. Because a teacher in Colorado used this particular assessment device, and usually it took about 3 months to get results back, because it took a while for her to convince the parents that, you know, this child needed to have some type of assessment. And then once they got on the docket, the time starts clicking in terms of the school psych has to do the evaluation, then there's a report. And she was thrilled because 45 minutes later, she had the actual report. It was generated automatically right after the assessment was done, and they could look at it and go, okay, this child definitely needs some additional assistance. And so what I'm hoping is they'll take it to their school, and the schools will have enough knowledge to say, okay, this looks like there's an issue we need to address. and then create some type of remediation or intervention plan. That's the goal. That's the hope.
Question in the center.
Hi.
Hi.
So I understand that you have your website. Have you done any sort of branding, or are you familiar with the concept?
I'm marginally familiar with the concept of branding, and done hardly anything with it.
Okay, so as far as marketing goes, it would be really helpful to first establish a brand, perhaps take your brand to social media, Facebook or Twitter. A lot of the people from your target market, women 25 through 40, spend a lot of time, especially if they do have children and they're homemakers. They can be on Facebook or other forms of social media. Also consider grocery stores. So as you're walking out, you always see those magazines, newspapers. You could just have a flyer there or a pamphlet of information. Also clothing stores, Old Navy, those places. And you could find a lot of resources on YouTube to teach you about marketing. I understand you're on a low budget. So marketing, branding, you could search top 10 marketing methods, and then you can find a really good source of information there. So
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Another question on your right here.
Hi, nice presentation. I've got a question and then a quick comment. So we've talked a little bit about this as a one-time thing, a one and done, you get the evaluation. Are you working at all on moving forward where there could be more online resources to actually help them through this issue?
Actually, what my long-term plan is to generate enough money with this reading screening instrument to develop what we call card satellite centers. That is our nonprofit. To actually, they'd be sort of like Sylvan Learning Centers, but we only work with kids with dyslexia.
Okay.
That's our long-term goal, is to funnel the funds from the reading screening site actually to this nonprofit to actually do more work with kids. Because the part I didn't talk about is that we're exceptionally good at helping individuals who have severe dyslexia and moderate dyslexia become competent readers, and that's our big goal.
Okay. I was going to say, the quick suggestion is, I know you're on a low budget, and I can understand that as someone who's been an entrepreneur most of his life. I would focus on the marketing strategy, but I'd also focus on a sales strategy. The marketing strategies can be great as you get bigger and have more money to spend, but at the end of the day, you need to be selling some of this to bring in that money and drive the business forward. So I just encourage you to put that thought in your head, at least, of also having a specific sales strategy.
I will, and actually I'm trying to remember everything people are saying because I'm going to have to look this up and figure it out. Okay.
Question on your left. Question here on your left.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, you talked about being published in some of the scientific journals. Did those include some of the ones that teachers and counselors are reading? Have you thought about that? You've already written some of these articles.
Right.
So you have a push-pull from both sides, the parents on one side and the teachers on the other.
Yeah,
Have you thought about that?
that's a great idea, but generally teachers don't read science, the scientific journals that I write in, and actually professors in colleges of education don't as well. But getting it out there, I think that's good, because there's an organization called Decoding Dyslexia, and they're very powerful. They're actually the state law in Missouri that's going to go in effect 2018. There's a push there from them to get it going. In Arkansas, there's a push in Oregon. They're all across the United States making these pushes. And I've been trying very gently to get them to pay attention to the reading screening stuff. And I think that would help if they would endorse it at some level. And it's hard for me to ask them to do that. So I mean, sometimes I guess I have to grow a thicker skin and say, okay, please help me out.
Question up front.
How many users have you had thus far?
Probably about 2,000 over, so we started in 2005. And so we've had about 2,000 users, but it's been usually a one and done kind of deal. And they'll say that they had a good experience, but it's like isolated. Like, when we look at people who are using it, lots of people use it in the United States, but we have people in Britain and Australia use it as well.
Do you have the demographic breakdown of those users?
I don't. I could look at that.
Well, I asked that because when we talk about, you said you're 2 hours from here, so perhaps in a more rural area, but even in the inner city, I mean, $25, like I would pay for kids or families to do that myself, right? So it's very affordable. It's a needed and necessary service. So if you have your users, they can then become your advocates. They can become your marketing team if you're getting video testimonials or written testimonials, and then you start putting that up to say, yes, I was armed with this information and my kid was able to be helped in this area. You know, that, like, parents hearing that from parents, it skyrocket. 2,000 people? I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Question here in the center.
Hello. Are you familiar with impact testing, which is concussion-based testing? And I ask because there's a lot of parallels to what I'm reading, not in the discipline itself, but in the funding. You may want to check that website out, because essentially what they do is they sell a bank of tests to providers, hospitals, physicians, and then also to schools, and then parents that want to access that information. And so getting back to the funding topic, there may be some parallels for you to look at with this impact testing that you may want to consider, because you're talking about states and potentially making that mandatory, whatever that means or looks like, with all the research literature out there about football and concussions. That's where impact is really capitalized. And so you may want to look at that and connect yourself with the parent, the student, the school, and look at that funding model.
Okay. Yeah, I've never thought of that, but yeah, they're both brain-based issues. So.
Question in the center.
So it seems like a lot of people have been hinting at what you can do afterwards to kind of boost sales. My mom is a second grade teacher, and she always talks about being able to help the kids that are very low, but the kids that are kind of in the middle that have problems, the state can't fund that, just through the legislator. So it might be that you can look into how you can help these parents afterwards, and also use that as a revenue generating model as well. And I also, I tutor a boy, and he has, his mom thinks that he's on the verge of dyslexia, but doesn't know. So this would be something that that I'll look into, seeing if she wants to do this with him. And then the question comes, what's next? If the school can't help them, can you provide that solution?
Yeah, that's great, actually. And the solution for us right now is they'd have to travel to Pittsburgh, Kansas for us to do the intervention with them. There are a lot of actually interventions that are successful with dyslexia, probably even this, I mean, obviously in Kansas City area, but there's a big draw here for what we're trying to do. That, you know, this notion of creating a CARD satellite center, we've had lots of people trying to get us to do that up here, because the waiting list to get in, it takes a long time to get help and those types of things. So yeah, we'd be interested in doing that. But right now, in terms of helping people, we're located in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and people travel for a week at a time to come down and us to do our intensive intervention, or sometimes they just come down for our evaluation. So, you know, we're looking to spread. You know, we're looking to spread because the science has actually told us what is appropriate to do to help kids become competent readers, no matter what their reading levels are. We need to get that going on, because, you know, if you can't read, and it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. And it's a systems problem today. Because, you know, we know this information. We've known it for decades. It's getting it into schools. And I talk into schools a lot to try to help them understand what they can do to help kids with their reading.
All right, David, last question. What can we as a community do to help you?
Well, I think the questions you've asked, I've already got like 6 things. I'm glad that someone's taping this for me to look at, because I won't remember it all, but I very much appreciate your thoughts and efforts and questions, and I'm certainly going to do that. And hopefully, you know, down the road, you know, I can say, hey, it all got started in terms of actually something happening because I came here. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Give him a good round of applause. All right, we've got a couple announcements. I'm going to start with Courtney.
So I am doing an announcement this morning on behalf of the Kauffman Foundation. It says, do you want to start your own business or improve the growth of your existing business but struggle knowing what you need to know or who to talk to? We are very interested in your input. So the Kauffman Foundation is going to put together, it looks like content courses on entrepreneurship. So they would love your feedback and input. I have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in knowing more. So please come find me and sign up later. Thanks.
We have another live announcement from Mr. Kyle.
All right, good morning, everyone. Global Entrepreneurship Week is coming up in November 13th through the 17th. It's a huge celebration around entrepreneurship here in KC. We're crowdsourcing events from the community, and the deadline to get your events in is this Friday. So if you are interested in hosting an event and sharing your expertise with the entrepreneurial community here in Kansas City, go to gewkc.org and get those ideas in before Friday. If you have any questions, just grab me later. Thanks.
Thanks, man. All right, my favorite part. It's time for Mug Club. Raise your hand if you've been here 10 times or more. Okay, all right. Now, keep your hand up if you have not received a mug. Okay, gentleman over here. Got Billy coming to give you a mug. If you could tell him what your name is and why you come to 1 Million Cups.
My name is Stacy Clark. I'm the owner of Unlimited RV. I started coming here about 2 years ago as a new entrepreneur just to kind of see the bantering and the discussion and the encouragement and, wow, that's a great idea. So a lot of times I'll just come passively and listen and pick up those nuggets to improve my business. So I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Up next, we have Adisha with the Lean Lab. Kyle, you said you were going to steal my mic. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right.
Let's hope this works. Okay, cool. All right, I hope all of you can hear me. So, hi everyone, I am Adisha Valetti. I am a Managing Director of Community and Partnerships for the Lean Lab. And we are a startup incubator focusing on education ventures here in Kansas City. So our vision is that all children will have access to innovative and effective learning opportunities. And we do that by being a Kansas City-based community that launches transformational education innovations that have a national impact. So what we have done, we do a lot of community work, but our core program is our Incubator Fellowship, and each of our fellows in the cohort this year will be coming and giving short presentations about their ventures. But in our community lane, we've convened over 1,000 innovators, and we also do a lot of early stage work, idea stage work. So if you have an idea for a business that fixes a problem, crucial in education, you can come talk to me, and we've helped over 350 of those. Within our fellowship, our later stage where we actually invest in our entrepreneurs, we've invested $100K in our entrepreneurs so far, and this is our 4th cohort, but we've done 3 cohorts in the past with 17 new ventures launched. They've raised close to $100K themselves as alum, and over 50% of them persist. And we've impacted a ton of students locally through our program, so 8,000 students here in Kansas City, and over 400,000 students nationally. So our cohort, we recruit nationally for entrepreneurs, but we really this year screened for Kansas City fit and commitment to Kansas City. So everyone here, they are either local in our cohort, or if they're not from Kansas City, they're looking to scale here, so they're really actively looking for partners to come bring their services here. And in terms of KC Fit, earlier this year I did a listening tour of 134 parents, students, and teachers, those core to the school experience, in various zip codes all across the city, and really tried to distill the needs of our community, and then we tried to we tried to recruit strategically so that for entrepreneurs to then fit those needs. So we really screened for that this year. One of our members of our cohort, unfortunately, is not able to be here. It's Vital. I'll give you a quick rundown of what they do. They basically, they are a platform that helps teachers create vibratory and touchscreen applications for special education students or blind and visually impaired students. So on your normal class set of iPads, you can really quickly edit images so that when you touch them, they either have audio or vibratory sensations, so that if you need to process images or text non-visually, you can do that. So if you would like to learn more about that, please come and talk to me afterwards, and I would be happy to connect you. So if you are working with special education students or blind and visually impaired students, I'd be happy to do that. But you will hear from Diversity Talks, which is student-led professional development. You will also hear from Explorable Places, which is a website that makes it easy for teachers to find and book field trips, which if you are a teacher, you know it's like the worst process in the world and it takes forever. Healthy Hip Hop, which is, what is it? It's movement, it's music, movement, and a message. There we go. Okay, Roy will do that, local KC team. And Transportant, which helps improve school transportation through fixing busing ecosystems. So instead of hearing from me, we will get started with our first presentation from our cohort.
$3.1 million. 3.1 million teachers within the United States are looking for opportunities for them to understand the diverse needs of their student population. And currently, the diversity professional development that they're receiving is ineffective. But what if we empowered students to lead professional development in their classrooms? As of today, over 10 school districts in the state of Rhode Island, educators are empowering their students and fostering a relationship in the classroom through Diversity Talks. Diversity Talks strengthens the relationship between students and teachers through facilitated conversations led by students. We are different from any other professional development provider because we identify students and train them to lead professional development in their district. The students then develop curriculum using our specialized framework, which ensures that all of their identities are represented. And because of this, since the students are leading the professional development, they come from a diverse background, we provide teachers with multiple perspectives specific to their population. As an end result, Diversity Talks builds the trust that's needed for educators to relinquish their power and let students have a voice in the classroom. I'm Kiara Butler, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Diversity Talks, and I look forward to answering any of your questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Meg Davis, and I'm the founder of Explorable Places. When I didn't learn to read till I was in the 4th grade, and as a result, my parents took me all over the state to kind of learn in person. As a teacher, I tried to do the same thing for my students. I knew that my kids that struggled the most were often the most successful when they got out of the classroom. And there's data to back it up. We know that field trips actually increase test scores and impact, cause students to retain things longer. But we have a problem. For some places, over 50% of the field trip slots are vacant, not because they're bad, but because teachers don't know they exist. And it can take teachers up to 2 months, between 2 hours and 2 months, to book a single field trip. Because teachers need a place where they can find and book field trips related to what they're teaching quickly and easily. Explorable Places does that by connecting educators to field trips by subject, grade, activity, and location. On our web-based platform, they can book a field trip in minutes. We charge a yearly subscription fee to museums to use our customized booking software. And we look for partners including museums, nature centers, businesses, utilities, and libraries, among many other things. We've had a lot of traction. With 12 paying customers, we've had 500 users, 700 field trips, and impacted 18,000 students. We'd love to meet as many potential partners as we can in Kansas City, so if you can think of any, I'd love to talk to you, or if you have any other questions. Thanks very much.
My name is Roy Scott, and I am founder and CEO of Healthy Hip Hop. We produce educational programming for early childhood learning using our original Healthy Hip Hop music as a learning tool to help improve academic outcomes. We've been deemed by many as the Sesame Street of the 21st century. And a little bit of my background and how this started. I'm born and raised here in Kansas City, and as a young man was very influenced by hip hop and hardcore rap music, and decided instead of furthering my education and playing college basketball, I was gonna be a rapper. So it wasn't a very smart decision, but along that journey, I had my wake-up call when I was in my vehicle with my 3-year-old son, and he started repeating my music. This music was glorifying drugs, violence, and degrading women. So that was my light bulb to no longer submit to that form of music and create healthy hip hop, which takes that same urban sound and the pop culture sound, but we place a positive message behind it about education, health, and wellness. One of the issues we're finding in elementary schools and programs is that they're cutting back on physical education and recess. And so science is showing that when kids are physically active during learning and before learning, helps improve focus, retention, gets the blood flowing to the brain. And so with this problem, we've identified our solution, which is our Brain Breaks morning energizers, pre and post test taking. They use our music and video content to get up, get active. So we have a subscription-based model to our content. We also have our physical product, which is our Keep It Moving mat. And we have a mobile application that we're currently developing that allows students to create custom video content based around the teacher's lesson plans. So we're very passionate about what we do, and that's impacting education through music, movement, and a message. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hey, good morning. My name is John Stiers, and I'm a co-founder of Transportant. So this is our customer, a very frustrated school administrator who has to spend their day trying to learn transportation and fleet management. She's totally overwhelmed by the challenges that this industry provides her every day, which includes problems with efficiency, problems with cost, problems with safety, problems, most importantly, with reliability. And she's looking for a solution that can help bring that information and collect that data to help her do a better job so that she can go back and do her real work, which is teaching the students. We are in a space where there are certain applications that provide parts of the solution, but Transportant is the only company that is fully integrated and solves the solution specifically from the position and interests of the school administrator. It also supports, obviously, the needs of parents and students. So Transportant developed this device that provides parents and students the information they need to make sure that the attendance levels are as high as possible. We ensure that the students can get there with visual access through the mobile device of where the bus is, when it's going to arrive. They are able to get notifications if the bus is going to be late, if the bus line is canceled. None of this information is currently available to them. Drivers have an opportunity to be able to ensure that they're picking up the right kids at the right time and dropping them off the same. Drivers also are being protected from being distracted because we offer onboard Wi-Fi for the students to be active during their trip to and from school. We also try to manage and help the drivers if in the case of a behavioral issue by having an instant communication link with the administrator so that they can address any behavioral issues in real time. And finally, the administrators get a tool that actually works and provides them the data they need. It provides all the mapping of the entire bus fleet. It allows them to drill down and see live real-time video and audio from every bus. It gives them expected arrival times, as well as providing them access to communicate to the bus through audio. Whether it's one bus or many buses, they can make announcements directly through the platform. And that is Transportant. We are a $12 billion industry in the student transportation sector. We've interviewed numerous Kansas City school administrators to identify that this is a major problem for them and that they're very frustrated with the current outcomes of this community and what's available today. We make money by selling the Transportant device that you see on the top. We also make money through a subscription model of the application for the dashboard as well as the mobile devices. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so now I will invite our entire cohort up to center stage and answer questions from the panel and the community.
Excellent. We'll get started with the expert panel.
First of all, those were all fantastic ideas, really great solutions, and Lean Lab has been doing a fantastic job for years, so congrats to you guys. With the explorable places, you mentioned you had 18 customers. What is a customer?
It's a cultural partner that's chosen to pay us. They're all currently. We just started working on building partnerships in New York, in Kansas City. All of them that we have are in New York, and they range from Columbia University, the Department of Environmental Protection, urban farms, museums, historic houses, businesses.
Okay, so they're the destinations are paying you. So does the school district or teacher or anyone, they don't pay?
I was a teacher, and I know how tight budgets are, and so teachers pay nothing.
Okay, and how's that pricing model work?
The institutions pay a yearly subscription fee based on the number of students they serve a year, and that covers the booking software that we build. We're launching payment processing, so then we'll also take a small fee if they choose to use that. The goal is to keep it pretty cost effective for the institutions because they're also working on a tight budget, which is part of why we're looking to partner with more businesses, like possibly field trips to an architecture firm or an engineering firm or things like that, who are hoping to do corporate social responsibility by working with students.
Okay. And where can I get a cool shirt like that?
This I got in Kansas City, actually.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
awesome. I want one.
Yeah.
So how will educators, administrators become aware of your platform?
Sure. So we push. So what's really great is that the partners actually send every single institution, every single teacher that comes to book a field trip to our site. So we're getting directed, like all the teachers that do field trips to the institutions we've partnered with are being directed to our site, and then they find out that it exists, they see all the other field trips and kind of go that way. We also have really good SEO, so if you type math field trips, best field trips New York City, science field trips New York City, all of those things, we come in #1 in Google. So by searching as well.
What do you hope to learn in Kansas City? Question for each. For all of you, please. What do you hope to learn while you're here in Kansas City? Are you all, I know a couple of you are local, so are you from New York, I assume?
Yes.
And so Rhode Island is the other one? Okay, so what do you hope to learn while here in Kansas City, and what have you enjoyed so far?
I've loved getting to know the cultural institutions, starting to, and I hope to kind of figure out a good way to expand to all different cities.
So far, I've enjoyed the barbecue. I mean, being from Mississippi, with Southern food, I've enjoyed the barbecue. But I hope to learn more just about the landscape in general when it comes to your high poverty locations or your high income locations and how students are impacted based on the resources that they're provided in each of those.
So, I live here. Yeah, so the great thing about Kansas City is it's this perfect environment to test new products and platforms. So we have rural, we have urban, we have different socioeconomic groups. It's a great opportunity to see where a product like Transportant can leverage and improve and enhance the outcomes that we have today. So we're real excited about being able to work in our hometown and also be able to manage a lot of different ecosystems of transportation to really fine-tune what the needs will be between the different sectors, whether it's charter or public school or urban or rural. So that's the greatest part for us for Kansas City. It's a perfect platform.
Yeah, and I concur with that. We're using Kansas City as basically our kind of testing pilot platform. So right now, we're doing about 30 live events a month. So we're going into schools, we're going into private functions, and so our pivot is to go into a digital delivery of our content. And so we're actually going to be hyper-focused on Kansas City and working with a lot of teachers and schools so we can collect some key data, and then we're going to be scaling it out to other cities. So Kansas City is going to be critical to our business model and kind of how we're formatting our pricing and our delivery.
Excellent. We're going to turn it over to you guys for questions. Feel free to ask questions to any of the entrepreneurs or the Lean Lab. I'll get us started. Question for each of you. What are your goals for the next year?
I'll start there. So our goals for the next year is to have our technology fully developed and to generate $500,000 in revenue.
Our prototype is almost complete, and we have 4 LOIs right now with school districts to utilize our platform, and we hope to expand that and over the next year fine-tune it so we're ready for full deployment in the next school year.
Over the next year, I hope to pilot with at least one district and show a decrease in chronic absenteeism, suspensions, and teacher turnover.
I hope to establish a presence here in Kansas City and then use that model to expand to 5 other cities across the country.
Okay, we have a question in the center.
Have you thought of the chip implanting the little children and training them how exactly the government and the teachers and the parents would like the children to be? That would be an early business. Totally the opposite of divine law. Any of you?
I'm sorry, chip implanting, we may need a little more description there.
Well, I do know that my cousins, High Tech from Qualcomm, NTAP, have been trying to knock off my mother. They had a chip implanted with her, and I would see her delirious on the bed. And finally, last Thursday, I called the police, and I didn't call, I went next door and called them, and I said, I just want to make a report that this lady is so frazzled and so exhausted, she won't be alive tomorrow, I don't think, period.
Got it. Well, chip implants, as far as monitoring where children are, is definitely one of many different avenues that we can monitor the attendance and ridership of the bus system. How's that?
Question in the back center.
Hey there, guys. Great job. I have a question for H3. First, love what you're doing. Like, super excited. My sons would be all over this.
Thank you.
And second, can you tell us a little bit about your background and where you came from and how you got to where you're at?
Sure. So Kansas City is home. So pretty much Midtown, inner city. I was they call it the 50s. So I came up on 54th in Garfield, and really I didn't understand the importance of education as a young man, and I didn't have a real good support around me, and so really got into a lot of the wrong things, and that's what basically. I don't have much of a background other than doing music. You know, I don't know really much about education, so I've been surrounding myself with education advisors who develop curriculum, who can really point us in the right direction. But playing sports and doing music was what I love to do, and so basically fast forward to me graduating high school and then basically becoming a rap artist. So that was what I aspired to do, and that's why I connect with a lot of these young kids, because a lot of these kids, especially in our urban cores, you know, they want to rap. So I started with Tech Nine way long time ago, you know, back in early 2000s, late 90s, and kind of like I said before, I just had my wake-up call when I had the experience of seeing my son engaging with me and repeating my music that was promoting all the wrong things. I reflected internally on me and my experience and how music was influential on me and just really influenced me to make a lot of bad decisions. And so that's where Healthy Hip Hop was born. So usually when we think about kids' music, it's like really watered down. It's like Yo Gabba Gabba. I'm not knocking Yo Gabba Gabba. They making moves, but and kids bop and all that. You know, it's kind of watered down. But our stuff, it sounds just like the vibe that the hip hop beats that they're listening to, but everything behind it is positive. And so originally the movement started just about music and about, you know, how can we impact kids? Like I said, so kind of contemporary Sesame Street. We did a kids television show, had 2 puppets, hip and hop, kind of like Bert and Ernie, you know, so we started filming that, and then we had found success in the education space, and that's when we made our pivot. And I won't take up too much of the time, but really made the pivot big because we actually had got selected to pitch on season 7 of Shark Tank. And fast forward, we successfully closed a deal with Kevin O'Leary, one of the hardest sharks to close, only to have our episode blocked by the Hollywood politics because we were competition to the big boys in that business. So after we got that horrible news, we kind of had to pivot our delivery, and that's when we really were going hard in the ed tech space and started developing the technology. So that's basically kind of where we started and where we're at right now.
Question up front.
This is for the student-led PD. Can you give me more information, Diversity Talk, sorry, more information about how the students are going about creating the curriculum that they're using through your platform?
Yes, so we believe that an outsider can't come in to tell you how to run your home. And so if we were to contract with the district, we would basically do recruitment as any job would. We would recruit the students, We would interview them, we would select them, and then we would train them on basic facilitation skills, conflict resolution, coping skills, and then they would develop the curriculum based off of what they feel their teachers need to know in their school. So it could be that my teacher doesn't understand me because I'm an English language learner, and I believe that my teacher should focus more on this. And so they would tailor the presentation based off of that. So it's bringing the student voice to the forefront, and we're basically letting them run with it, and we're relinquishing our power as an educator.
So the students that are currently participating, that to me sounds as if those individual students then have individual needs that perhaps need to be met. How are we recruiting multiple students from districts, or are they looking at the whole picture of
Yes.
creating a culture and environment of equity?
Yes, so we believe in the student voice authenticity. So we use the train the trainer model. The students are trained by other student facilitators already providing the professional development training. We have an ideal student rubric that we use to basically rank the students when they go through the interview process. So you can have an A student or you can have an F student, but if they meet the criteria in the other areas that make sure we have a diverse group, then they could be a student facilitator as well. And so that's how we're capturing the entire population.
Question in the center.
Hi, my name's Sam. I have a question for the H3 cohort. I really love what you guys are doing. With that, I work in a very similar space, so I'd love to chat with you after this. But I was curious, you were saying something along the lines of you working mostly in music and surrounding yourself with educators to facilitate the actual, cultivation of a program that's beneficial, not just, showing them music. And that's a specific thing that's really hard, especially when you're using a non-traditional form of entertainment like hip hop. So what's been your challenges for, bridging that gap between traditional education and bringing that into, the realm of hip hop, which is traditionally untraditional?
Got you. So basically, there has been a few challenges because even some of the early adopters, when you're dealing with a lot of schools, so when you say hip hop out the gate, a lot of the times there's a negative connotation attached to that. So when we come and talk about hip hop schools, we're like, well, we're not so sure. We go to Johnson County, they're like, well, I don't know if we want that hip hop, in our schools. But we've still been able to have a good response once they interact with us because a lot of our live engagement, they're familiar with us through that. So that's kind of been one of the biggest challenges. But strangely enough, the way kind of the culture is shifting is that it's starting to be a lot more accepted. So you're seeing a lot of news reports where, teachers they got that academy in Atlanta where the teachers creating dance moves and they're doing stuff based around hip hop. So it's starting to actually kind of be more accepted. And then we're kind of so that's the way we articulated basically how we're using the hip hop music. And they got to be clear that everything that we do is obviously clean cut. There's no profanity and it's all about education. It's about building kids up. But what we're seeing is that even not just the urban core, but also in the suburban schools, kids are influenced by hip hop. One of the biggest videos from one of our competitors, which they were surprised, we did a lot of research, so go to Johnson County, go to wherever you want, the whip and the nay-nay. You got kids whipping and nay-naying all over the place. It doesn't matter what their background is, or, they're actually doing more whipping and nay-naying in the suburbs than they doing in the hood. So we're kind of just tapping into that, and then kind of tapping into that resource is something that kids gravitate towards. So it's very culturally responsive. It's something that they already love, but then we want to tie in that positive education to be a positive alternative. And that's kind of been one of the kind of difficult things to articulate is that one of the biggest pain points is that, not only kids, but, adults, they love hip hop music, but majority of the time that message is not healthy. So at least for our young kids, we want to build a solid foundation with our youth to get them listening to more positive alternatives. So we can't, stop them from listening to that, but at least we can be a positive force to provide that positive option. But that has been one of the barriers, but we actually been very well received, and that's what we're doing in Kansas City, this real intense pilot to really get the key data we need from teachers and from the administrators so we can make sure we have everything tweaked so we can go to market strong.
All right, that's all we have time for. Last question, what can we as a community do for you? Each of you, including Lean Lab.
Our main focus right now is to help make our lovely fellows successful. So please talk to them and offer them the partnerships that they need. And they will tell you what that is now.
Same thing, yeah, looking for partnerships, just to connect with like-minded individuals, either in education or social media, things along those lines. Any way we can connect, that's what we're looking for.
School administrators and leads in Department of Transportation that need our sort of solution, we'd love to talk to you and get you in our pilot program.
Any teachers that want to provide feedback on if you think this is an effective way to be, I guess, professionally developed. And any administrators, directors of professional development, director of curriculum instruction that are providing professional development to your teachers, I would like to talk to you as well. Thank you.
We're looking to speak to any institution, people that work at any sort of institutions, nature centers, or also businesses that are interested in hosting student field trips. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. All right, that's it for this week. Next week we have Mavuno and the second speakers to be determined. See you all next week. Thanks.